Hockey Nation fans, welcome back to the Hockey Nation live show with Coach Frenchy directly from the booth, and of course, from the West Coast, Michael Devellano.
Good morning, Pierre.
Michael, are you ready for a dollar star today?
Yeah, what an interesting story.
Yeah, it's going to be see what's going on over there. Couple of things happening since the last time we spoke 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And we are ready to fire up today. Let's start with yesterday happening around the NHL. And the first thing we have to go talk is, of course, our signature and trade. And honestly, I've only one signature yesterday, October 28th, and is our Mr. Traveler. We can call him like a traveler. He's now in 8 years in NHL. He's already at the team number 5 during his career when he started with Montreal Canadiens. Was draft, I believe, it was 2012 or 2013. I read 12, right?
Yeah, the worst.
Yeah, it was the 3rd round pick overall.
3rd overall, it's crazy. And he could have gone first, like if he wasn't hurt.
Yep.
Right? He missed pretty much the whole year with Sarnia.
And we talk about, of course, Alex Galchenyuk. It's really interesting players. I think a couple of days ago you talk about, Joe Ensing and Old Saint and all those guys where sometimes their expectation is really high, never reach this. He is a guy who scored 30 goals in NHL and 15, 16, and then he never repeat this. He's only scored like 20, 17, 19, 19, but since he's like...
He had so many problems with the coach's confidence. It's a Ty Domi or a Max Domi situation, right? Where a guy's got all the talent. He's actually a good sized player. A coach doesn't feel they can trust him at center, and he wants to play center, and so they put him on the wing. And I mean, he went to Pittsburgh. I mean, I thought if anywhere, Pittsburgh would have reformed him. Pittsburgh has a history of helping talented players revive their career a little bit. I don't know.
Never happened. And Pittsburgh, Michael, he played only 11 minutes per game.
If you know one thing about Pittsburgh is they're pretty serious. Like they put up with Phil Kessel because I don't think he's off ice. He's not the same intensity as Malkin or Crosby. Those guys are serious. They don't screw around. Like they have decade plus of work ethic and practice and how they approach the game and preparation off the ice, and they put up with Phil because he was a unique personality and highly talented, but Galchenyuk couldn't even deal with that. I mean,
what's very interesting, he got only 17 points in 45 games with Pittsburgh, got traded to Minnesota. He came back with 7 points, 14 games.
He's capable of producing. That's the crazy thing. But nobody wants to put up with. I think the father situation's a problem. The dad, who has the same name as, God damn it, can I ever figure this out? There we go. The dad is like the agent, right? And the dad's just out to lunch. So I don't know. There's a bunch of weird. You got to think that get a proper agent. Tell your dad to back off. You're ruining my career, and be mature and take responsibility. But then there's the stuff on the ice. You've got to be willing to do. You're not an all-world talent. Hopefully the message gets through. And what's weird for me is, I'm not surprised it's Ottawa that signed him. They have to get some contracts on the docket, and they did a good job. I thought last year, gave a home to Anthony Duclair, and then so it's like they're replacing Duclair with Galchenyuk.
I agree with you. And the one thing is really, he's always been productive. Galchenyuk, it was always in power play.
Yeah.
Whatever he scored, 13 goals, you have 3 on power play. 20 goals, 3 on power play. 30 goals, 9 on power play. 17, 6. Then 19, 9. 19, 9. So he's really a little bit he could be, I believe I could be wrong this one, but it can be a Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, I think obviously Hoffman is way more consistent and productive offensively, so you put up with his defensive stuff. And he's probably improved a little bit, but not enough to care, right? And then if you're going to pay Galchenyuk $1 million and Hoffman $5 million, then there's a reason. I think this is going to be his last NHL contract. He'll be in the KHL after this.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's a Mike Hoffman. My point to you is like a or like he scored a lot of goals in power play.
Yeah, totally.
He's capable to score 25 goals per season.
Sure, but he scores 19 a lot. So when you have players that score, I mean, he went to Arizona in a swap of problems, right? So it said, you take Domi, we'll take Galchenyuk. He was expected to be more than, he got 19 goals again. And there was a big gap. It was like he caught up to get 19. So it's like it's just weird. He's just a weird player. It's too bad. He's got all the talent in the world. I thought he was going to be a real good player when he was in Sarnia.
One, you're really talented like he is, and then you play like, usually you should be at the top 6, right? On any team.
Yeah.
And a top 6 play at least 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, 20 minutes, right? He never played over 16 minutes during his career, more like 14, 12, 15. So he's a third line most of the time, and then any place if he get more minutes, it's because he play a lot of minutes on power play. So he get his time more on the power play side.
The guy. I mean, it's really annoying. I remember when that was that draft year, because it was like Nail Yakupov and him, and the talk was which one would go first, but he blew out his knee. And then I remember he's American, right? He's born in the U.S. He's born in Milwaukee because his dad played in the IHL there.
Yep.
And so he was, but I remember watching these guys, and they both had Igor Larionov, I think, as their agent, if I recall.
Yeah.
Some reason. And the other guy was Grigorenko. So those were the 3 guys. Now, the rumor about Grigorenko was that he was older than he actually claimed. So I don't know if you know that, but like they were pretty sure that his birth certificate was wrong.
Exactly.
They said that he was 20, not 18. That was the big rumor going to the CHL, and that's why Grigorenko dropped. But again, all 3 players were a lot of hype, all perimeter players. And I remember seeing the Russia Subway Series, which is they played the WHL All-Stars, and watching Yakupov was brutal. And they were like, wow, which one's better? And I'm like, wow, if he's like this guy, he's got to be better than him because he's terrible. And then he went first to Edmonton. The guy who was better was Nutrishkin, by the way. But both Grigorenko was in the Quebec League and too much hype. So I don't know. It was a terrible year that way. The other guy that got traded, if you recall, was the second pick from Everett, which is Ryan Murray. So I think all those guys are kind of coming. He's at least a serviceable defenseman. But anyways, it's weird. I think it's his last NHL contract. He'll go to the KHL after this.
Yep, I agree with you about that one over there. So want to mention about something where I know personally like a little bit, not like my friend, but I crossed him a couple of times, talked to him a couple of times on the game and at the Panthers, something like that. And he just got a job now. The Toronto Maple Leafs appointing Eric Joyce to the role of a hockey strategy. He
was like running the AHL team, right?
Yeah. So
I gotta fix this. This is so annoying.
He was with the Panthers for a couple of years, and he's always did a good job with the he's always been assistant GM, maybe something like that, and he was he grew around behind talent, maybe something like that. Those guys came from, of course, West Point guy, ended up West Point guy. A lot of people working on the youth travel and work at the office, and they came from the West Point because the owner Vincent Viola is the one a guy works with. He came from West Point, so you have tradition with the West Point people who work for that part. So he was really in charge. We see the AHL affiliation with San Antonio over there, and that's since like Zito came aboard and they hire, if you remember, he hired 2 guys that late and he hired someone else. Oh my God. He hired Rick Dudley and another one. So at that moment, we knew Eric Joyce, his time was limited with the Panthers, and finally, Carl Dubas just hired him, and so be
Okay.
really interesting. What happened is a little bit Toronto always been that way. Mark Hunter, and you know,
Man, there's a guy that should be a general manager in the NHL, Mark Hunter. I mean,
yeah. It really, you never get that chance or that opportunity with Toronto because that time you remember Lou Lamoriello came at the same time with Shanahan after that, and you can see Dubois join after that, Lamoriello and those guys like that. So was really interesting to see that. It's just like a news coming this morning, everything. So I just want to share with you about that one over there.
good for Eric, that's great. I think I'll send him a note on LinkedIn. That's a good opportunity to keep working in the game. Mark Hunter is weird. Like him and Dale both they have that golden franchise in the OHL of the London Knights, and it's like they make so much money off that normally. But
yeah, you're right.
Mark Hunter is a phenomenal judge of talent. Like that's who picked Mitch Marner.
Yep.
Fourth, like he looks like a genius. A lot of talent there because of him. But I think Dubas was, anointed and supposed to be there. So hopefully it's a good opportunity for Eric.
Yeah, of course. So you see, the situation with the Hunter family. They are really high in the OHL.
That's what I was saying. London Knights, like that's a gold mine. Yeah. They make so much money. They bring in like so many fans to that team.
Yep. Talking about news, the Hockey World Junior Canada, Hockey Canada select or invite 46 players to be at the training camp. The one's going to be a 2021 World Champion Tournament in Edmonton at the end of December. So it'll be really interesting to see what, what I mean. But you have a couple of names I would like to mention to you: Justin Barron, Bowen Biram, Jamie Dristel, Eden Goley. We have also Ryan O'Rourke, but then we have a Brendan Schneider. Then you have forward Maverick Burke from Shungan, Quentin Byfield, Dyson Forster.
I wonder if he'll be there.
Seth Jarvis, Hendrix Lapierre, Mercer, Jacob Pelletier, Cole Perfurdy, Samuel Poulin. Then we have Ran Suzuki. I just gave that, like the best, the best, like, the player we get drafted, everything like that. The head coach, of course, is going to be Andre Tourigny.
Really?
Ottawa is going to be there. Then, of course, was the goalie called? I lost him for many years. I just see him now. He's a goaltender coach for Calgary WHL. Is Jason Labarbera, goaltender for coaching over there.
He's the goalie coach?
Yeah, surprised me. Like
Canada's got problems. They got too many voices in the goalie thing. It's ridiculous. Like they need to pick a czar. They need to say this is goaltending because they have so many guys, and they don't develop goalies the way they need to. Like the U.S., Finland, Russia are all developing better goalies, and there's not a lack of talent or players. Like it's crazy.
Yep.
They need to figure out who their voice is. Like we're very fortunate. We've had a lot of success with goalies. But we had two great goalie coaches too. We had Clifford, who was working with Pittsburgh, and Cliffy worked with Carter, and now James Jensen is like phenomenal goalie coach, and he's in that Hockey Canada mix. I'm like, we don't want to lose him, but they need to pick someone like that, whether it's Jason LaBarbera or whoever. They just keep changing that role, and that's a very specialized role. It would be like, for the sake of everybody, Hockey Canada, pick somebody and give them reign over this so that there can be one message to players and coaches of how to develop goalies. We see it in Finland. Look at the goalies coming out of Finland. Look at the goalies even Sweden and Russia. Like, it's crazy. Even the U.S. has got better goalies.
I know. So we'll see what happening with them. Hockey Canada, they're thinking about fun option, everything like that. A couple of things I want to mention to you is that follow up with the RFA. They are right now on the airing for the next couple of days, right? So it's coming soon. One I want to mention to you, I don't think so. We talk about this, I think we mentioned, but I don't think the last episode or live daily show together, we talk about Tyler Bertuzzi signed a contract, right?
No, great. I thought it was a very team-friendly number. I think that I thought he would have got $4 million. He got $3.5 million, so I think that's a steal. He was their leading goal scorer. He's a different player. Like, he gets there because he works hard and he gets in scoring places and he meshes well with the guy. He's turned out way better than I ever would have anticipated. Like, when he was in Guelph, even when they drafted him, I thought this guy's a third, fourth line guy maybe, and I didn't even know about that. And so, to his credit, he's taken the opportunity and carved out a huge role for himself. And I think that they should sign him. It wouldn't be inconceivable he comes back with another 20 some odd goal season and he gets 5 years, $4 million. 5 million maybe. You never know. He could get 20 million over 5 years. Like, maybe gets more. I don't know. It just depends.
Well, here's the point, the disagreement between Eiserman and his agent was not big. We talk about $1 million.
Oh, small.
So it was not like a guy asked us $5 million, or team's gone.
No. I thought it was very reasonable, and he's like really important to that team.
So I think that at the end of the day, he could get 3.7, but we talk about just a couple of thousand. So for me, it's not a big deal. I think he's a good signature at 3.5. Yeah. He scored another 25 goals. Now he's get over $4 million. And at 26 years old, he can maybe get a couple of years contract or something like that. He need to prove one more year, like you just. I completely agree with what you just said.
I like him.
He's a good player. He's going to be a top 6 over there. Detroit is going to run that team over again, and we'll see what happens over there. I want to mention a couple of RFA. They did not.
Give me 1 sec. I gotta.
So again. So about RFA did not sign. They're going to have an airing next week. We talk about Victor Olofsson from the Buffalo Sabres. He is going to be November 4th. His airing is November 4th. We have also Warren Fogiel from the left wing for the Hurricanes. He is going to be the same day, November 4th. And then the next day, I think there's a one I'm very interested to see what he's going to get. Is really Ryan Strome, the center right wing for the New York Rangers, at 27 years old. He had, contract of 2 years at $3.1 million. He scored 18 goals, 41 assists, 60 points with the Rangers. I don't see this one cannot go over. I believe he's going to get a little bit more over $4 million. Talking about New York Rangers, of course, we have another one, Brendan Lemieux. He's getting like earring is going to be number 6, and the same day.
What did he ask?
Ryan Pollock for the New York Islanders going to also number 6. A little bit later, we have also Mackenzie Weger for the Toronto, and this was very interesting. When I'm going to tell you that Mackenzie Weger is going to be an application November 8th. But now, don't be surprised if Weger is going to Toronto at some point. And I will tell you why, because the transition that Eric Joyce to go over there knows very well Weger, and the Toronto always liked Weger. It was a couple of times he was talking about him. So it would be interesting to see the next one over there, if you have some move could happen over there. Do you have anything else on the earring? That's the big name going to be the next week to see in the summon. So it'll be interesting what they're going to get. So that's about the RFA. I don't know if you have any comments about that.
There was the one. So there was one name I blanked out on it.
Ryan Strome.
Yeah, so Strome is weird, right? So his numbers he's a very good two-way centerman. And he showed you play him with a top player like Panarin, and he can keep up, and he's good defensively. And I don't think Rangers believe in him still. It's just weird because he's a really useful player. Do I think he's a consistent 60-point player? Maybe not. But if you play him with Panarin, he is. But there's gonna be a lot of young guys challenging for that spot. So it'll be interesting. Like, do they play Kakko on the wing, or do they keep him? Do they move him to center? They have Zibanejad on the top line, which probably makes a lot of sense. But they might walk away from that or trade him. Which is
he had a big season this year. He played with Panarin, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
For the first time, he played 19 minutes, Michael. He's always been a 15-minute. So
it's like he's a good player. He even like the trade from Edmonton, they made a huge mistake. Like here they are, oh, we need a second line centerman.
That right now, Edmonton never trade this
in the third line. And he still would get like 12, 13 goals and 30 some odd points, and he was really good two ways. And they trade him for Ryan Spooner. Where's Ryan Spooner?
I really believe he's going to get around $4 million.
Yeah, he will, but they might walk away from it, Pierre. I don't think they think he's worth it, which is surprising to me.
Where I believe they're going to keep him for 1 year because they will say, you know what, keep him for 1 year, and then he's going to go back again. And then UFA, and then I would give a chance to see what happening with Capo and also
you can see where he would. I'm trying to decide: do I prefer him as a center or a wing, like Kakko, right? But I don't know. I like Ryan Strome. He could help out another team if they walk away from it. Like again, before they made the Nemenstikov signing, I think I prefer Nemenstikov on the wing. I was like, wow, Detroit should grab that guy. Because they have a huge hole in the second line. He would totally help them. He's not small. Like he's like 6'1". He's like 200 pounds. He plays a 200-foot game. He wins faceoffs. You can play him on the PK or the power play, and he gets points consistently. He's just not flashy.
Yep, I agree with you about that one over there.
I hope they go, but we'll see.
Talking about news, we have a couple of news going on the OHL season details. Honestly, they have a meeting yesterday, and they talk about starting February 4th. The training camp.
February 4th now.
Yeah, and the training camp starts.
Screwed, Pierre. The owners don't want to play. Like about half the owners don't want to play.
But that's what they decide to do. So I don't know.
Can down the line because they know there's going to be no Memorial Cup again. The U.S. teams might not even bother playing because if they can't have fans, they're all going to lose money. Like it's basically a $1 to $3 million check. That's what's going to happen. Like if they play and they can't have 3,500 fans, most of these teams will have to write a check between $1 to $3 million. And
so what happening? They start like February 4th, training camp the 23rd, January 23rd. European American player have to come here January 8th. Then after that to be on quarantine. They decide to play 40-game season, 14 for each conference, make the playoffs, so a total of 8.
Wow.
Only. They did not decide anything about the USC team right now.
Yeah, they won't play. I don't think.
They're going to have 2 games and January 29 to 31st, like an exhibition game, everything like that. But to answer to you, the government Canada, they gave money to all the team junior for survive for that coming year. So they gave them a couple of $500, $1 million, something like that for all.
So then that probably trues them up. So that if they give each team $500,000 to $1 million, then they'll break even.
So that's maybe the reason why they are thinking that. But now,
absolutely,
right now the hockey in Canada is shut down. At least for Quebec, they completely shut down for the next month. So November we have no hockey, and also the people cannot traveling to county. So they have to stay inside the county. If not, they cannot go to another one. They make barricades, like you have a line you cannot cross. If you go to somewhere else, you have to show up your permit, driver permit, and it's really shutting down everything like that. And
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So
we're in this like techno-communist era. It's ridiculous that they're doing this.
So that's what's going on over there.
Ridiculous.
Everything like that. Talking about news, the AHL, they decide to start the season back to February 5th now, 2021. So that would be pushed back about that. They want to be sure before that to see what's going on first with the NHL. Then after that, they were going to go move on. But that's what they expect to play starting February 5th. Now, the biggest news more about what we talked earlier, really is getting bigger and bigger, the subject of Mitchell Miller and the Arizona Coyotes players. They have law. Is getting more and more deeper, the story, everything like that. So we have a lot of people upset about this. And after the team didn't want to draft him because of this situation.
Well, look at what's happening. But this is like mob mentality, right? You would think that Arizona would have done their due diligence, and which it sounds like they did. And what, are you going to erase the kid? I don't say he's right or wrong. He was 14. Does he still behave like this? Then that's a problem. And I can't see an NHL team drafting him thinking that he's the same thing as he's being painted. He's a young kid, like he's 18. So he sounds like he was acting like an idiot, but he was 14. So I don't know. It sounds ridiculous to me. I'm not saying he should or should not have been drafted, but there's got to be some forgiveness for people and give people a chance.
For me, it's more about, if you're 32 years old, like an adult person, right? 30, 40, whatever is your age at that, you really have a sense if you stuck this way, it's not right. Make sense?
Of course. Yeah, you're an adult. He's not an adult.
At 14 years old, maybe you don't know the impact of your words, of what you said. It's
totally
not right. It's not. It could be very bad, and that's make him look bad right now at 18. But geez, it's 14 years old kids. How many young kids said a lot of bad things about other people? Not only about this part, but all
kids since the beginning of time, Pierre. Now, you and I have coached a lot of guys that are young, and I've seen some kids that are just rotten. And you've got to think that a kid that's like that bad would not get drafted. That's my assumption. Based upon how hockey works, it's important that it not be about the individual. There shouldn't be a spotlight on any one person, and you got to be part of a team, and you can't be a jackass. So my assumption is that they've done that due diligence, God damn it. But, I find this mob mentality, like, it's ridiculous. Like, sometimes you've got to give people a chance.
Yeah.
And he was 14. Did he do something that was bad? Obviously, because he had like a court case about it.
Yeah.
Now, the other flip side is we've also seen guys that are just unredeemable. But we've seen guys that are drunk drivers that have had charges against them in the history of sports, and they get a second chance. And sometimes they are fine, and then other times they screw up.
I agree with you. It's for me is like, come on, the kid.
I don't know. I think you've got to
14 years old. You know what I mean?
But the flip side is then Arizona should have anticipated this was going to be a nightmare. Because other teams did.
Yeah, I know that. I understand what you mean by that part over there, but still, I don't get really everything. But we'll see happening.
We have we have a lot of people that want blood.
Yeah. Let's move on to our subject, where it's at the end of the show we're always talking, or we are in a marathon of 30 days, 31 days, 31 different teams. That's what we're doing right now. And today is about Dallas. But before you jump on it, I don't know if you see the news or the New Jersey flashlight, whatever, what do you call them? Like, it was like unbelievable, the jersey. Did you see this jersey? For Dallas Star, they make a jersey.
No, let's look.
You never look. You did not look like it's like a neon jersey. Like,
Really?
Yeah, black and yellow, and I can show it to you.
Let's look. Oh, wow.
I know.
Holy, that's crazy. I
I
like
know.
it. I kind of like it. It's kind of neat.
So it was just like you just mentioned this to you to let you know about that one over there. That
Yeah.
was the news. It was the news in NHL yesterday. But I want to mention about one thing here, where we talk about him. I think it was Monday when we talk about him,
Look at
and
that.
then we you know we move on about. Let me
These
check.
are crazy. Look at these.
I know.
So is this like in black light? Is that when you see it?
Yeah, that's my point here. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like, this looks like Ovechkin, by the way. Who the hell is it?
Yeah.
It's not, but those are crazy.
Yeah. So my story I want to mention to you is like you have a chance, you know, Hockey Nation fans, you love the game, you love the thing. I think you should looking more for the subject of what Wayne Gretzky talk about Joey Moss.
Yeah.
He on TSN they have a great story about when he got traded and everything like that. It's really touching, and sometimes um, I don't know. It's a great athlete, so Hall of Famer died, passed away. What I mean, we talk about this, but a person like him, Joey Moss, make a a big impact on the Edmonton organization, and I think it's really important to mention this part sometime because we don't know, what I mean? Like, not many people knows what's going on with, what I mean? And deeper that each organization have some people like him make an impact to the players, everything like that. So it was really nice. Well, one Gretzky took a time to talk about him and he did a lot of press conference and everything like that. So I just want to mention to you about Joey Moss because honestly, he did a great impact for other players during this time. He worked for over 30 years with the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, it's a great story, and he's going to be definitely missed.
Definitely. I've been with you. It's like, so we'll see happening. Now, let's move on with you. You're in charge about the driving to the preview team, and let's go with the Dallas Star today.
So, I mean, the big story is obviously that they made a cup run. When the playoffs started, there was obviously expanded to 24 teams. This has been a weird team because the GM, Jim Nill, has made big moves in the offseason almost every year in building this team. And they always kind of had been a bubble team. So they get in, they face the Colorado Avalanche at some point, and they knocked them off. Now, Colorado was definitely depleted injury-wise, but they didn't stop there, and they just kept going. So the big story was, as a group, you saw how deep they were. You also saw Miro Heskinen or Heskinen. I got to look up how you pronounce his name properly. He is a star, right? Like, this was a guy that was a third overall draft pick, I believe. Is he third or fourth? Third, yeah. And he is he's such an amazing skater and a great player. And he was like a point a game guy in the playoffs. A lot of credit has to go to Jim Nill and Joe McDonnell. Both came from Detroit, and they're responsible for the talent they've brought in, not just through trades, but also through drafts. And we'll go through and, you see names that you don't necessarily have understood how good they are. But what we saw in the playoffs was they're big, they're fast, they're talented. They rallied around their coach, Rick Bowness, who took over in another weird circumstance, which, they had Jim Montgomery as the coach. He had some issues with alcoholism and so was replaced, which he said saved his life, I believe. And Rick Bowness, who's been such a long time guy in the NHL, mainly as an assistant and never had a lot of success as a head coach, goes on this run to the finals. It was like storybook. The other big story was when Bishop went down, obviously, and Anton Khudobin, who re-signed with the team, real character guy, been in the NHL for 13 years, I think. And he just became, in some games, unbeatable. Another good news story was this Kivi Ranta kid, the Finnish kid that had a hat trick the one game and continues to show. It looks like he's an offensive player that can score from the second line. So another positive story from them. If you look at the prospects, they've got guys that are coming up that are going to play. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Julius Honka. He left because he felt he wasn't getting the opportunity to play in the NHL. This is a guy they put in the AHL at 18. Presumably, he's a very good skating defenseman. He's got high talent level, and for whatever reason, wasn't working out. So he went back to, I think he played in the KHL last year. But if you look at their other prospects, they've got guys that are going to play. Like Thomas Harley looks like he'll be a top four defenseman at some point from the Mississauga Steelhead in the OHL. Delandrea, we've seen him play for Team Canada in the World Juniors, and he's just like a gritty two-way fast player, kind of similar to Liam Foudy in Columbus, maybe a little less speedy, but equally as gritty and can do a lot of positive things. We saw Jake Ottinger as the backup, and he seems like he's a very capable goalie. So this is another prospect that's turned out. And this year they selected Maverick Bourque. I really like this selection. He's a smaller guy, but he's kind of like, he's got some offensive talent, and I think he's got a lot of potential. So he could be a real good pick from this year. We saw Sagan really struggle this year offensively and in the playoffs, but it came out that he had a lot of injuries. So he played through a lot of injuries. Jamie Benn stepped up his play, and I think he shows he's got a lot of miles left. Like, he's a big throwback power forward that can take over a game. NHL referees are penalize this guy for some crazy stuff just because he's like a bull in a china shop, but you still got to love the way he plays. So if you look at their lineup, the big story last year was the signing of Joe Pavelski, and man, did that pay off. He signed a 3 years times $7 million deal, so $21 million, sitting in behind Sagan and Ben. But in the playoffs, man, he put this team on his back. Radulov is what Radulov is, right? He's talented. He's going to turn over the puck a lot at really inopportune moments. And then he'll score big points on other moments. So he's an interesting player. I've never been a huge fan. You saw him in Montreal. Cogliano's contract's going to wire off, so that'll be, the last contract he has probably with them at 3.2. They're not going to re-sign him at that. He'll be a UFA, and that'll be it. We saw in the playoffs what he is. He's what he's always been. He's a small, speedy player that can fill in. But the big story, I would say, is the secondary scoring on this team. We saw big minutes for Radek Faksa, and he's an excellent two-way center. The emergence of Denis Gurianov, and he signs a 2-year, $5.1 million deal that I think is very favorable. I mean, he had 20 goals last year in limited, season. He's got lots of upside. I think we both really like this kid. Blake Como showed he can still play at a high level. He's big and fast, and he's really fit player. And he was an important part of this team. And when he went down, it was another chink in their armor but they still made it through despite that. Kivi Ranta was a bit of a revelation. Like, I was like, man, this guy's never going to score a hat trick again. But what you saw is he's able to get to scoring areas, and he might be a really good top six forward. Like, he looks like he's legit. And the Rupe Hintz, to me, he went down a few times with some injuries, and he kept coming back. This is like, to me, a dream player, like 6'4", 6'5" centerman that can skate, take over games, plays a 200-foot game, good offensive instincts. I don't know what he will re-sign for, but he's an important part of this team. And if he signs for a number they don't like and they want to move him, like, there's lots of teams that would love this guy. We saw their D was the top four was real good. Heiskanen, of course, is the star of this team. Klingberg continues to be an effective offensive defenseman. Lindell is shockingly, like, look at Lindell's contract, Pierre. 5.8. Like, he's paid $1.6 million more than Klingberg. that shocks me whenever I look at it. He's a good defenseman,
right?
What's that?
You talking about Lindell?
Yeah, Lindell. It's a Lindell. It's crazy, that contract.
Yeah. And also it was like when a player got drafted like 74 overall.
Yeah.
In 2012.
second round pick or third round pick? Third round pick, right?
Wrong pick, yeah.
Stephen Johns continues to have injury issues. I'm not sure if you'll see him come back or not. He's had I think post-concussion issues. Jamie Olixiak, this is a late blooming 6'7" defenseman. He had a great playoff. You can see he's got better offense than we thought. I don't know if he'll produce numbers at a high level, but he can step up and he's got good hands and he's big and he plays effective. This is a dream, kind of top 4 defenseman for a lot of teams. And then Sekera resigns for a 2-year, 1.5. He's not the Sekera that we knew from Edmonton and Buffalo or Carolina for that matter. He's older now and he doesn't necessarily get the offensive opportunities, but he's a very good supporting defenseman. So they bring him back. They sign Mark Pysyk, who you probably know from Florida. Taylor Fedun showed that he's an effective player, but this is really Miro Heiskainen's team, or Heiskanen, depending on how we decide his name's supposed to be pronounced. They re-signed Khudobin. It's funny how they're still paying the buyout on Nichushkin, yet he's playing pretty well in Colorado. So the lineup, very deep, lots of depth at every position. We saw this guy Jason Dickinson play, and it'll be interesting to see if his offensive numbers improve. He was someone that coach trusted a lot to play center and wing. He played a lot of minutes in the playoffs. Wasn't necessarily offensively productive, but he's reliable, right? He's a good player. Maybe they got some upside with him. I think Denis Gurianov's got a lot of upside. It feels like this could be his team if he keeps progressing the way we saw him. Shockingly didn't play that many minutes in the playoffs. It was bizarre, but was offensively productive, including the game winner that got them to the Stanley Cup final. Faxa is not a fourth line centerman. We've seen he's capable of being a second line guy, and he's a very important part of this team, as is Rupe Hintz. So they'll get 2 more years out of Pavelski. I don't necessarily see them making the same type of run, but I guess you never know, right? We saw that Pavelski is very important on this team and was very important in San Jose, because without him, San Jose was one of the worst teams in the NHL. You got to think that they almost wish they kept him and not given all that money to Erik Karlsson. It'll be interesting to see if Thomas Harley sticks this year. Then that'll kind of round out an issue that I saw. And does Julius Honka come back from the KHL? Because if those 2 guys are on the lineup, then they have 6 really good defensemen. And if Ben Bishop comes back from injury, then they're very deep in goal. So they could be dangerous. I think they've sent a message that they're capable of beating anyone in the NHL. And then, you don't necessarily see it here. I don't know what's going on with Riley Tuft. He was a fairly high draft pick. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to pop through. We saw Kamano in the playoffs, and he's a big 3rd, 4th line guy that's got a little bit of offense that maybe could flex up to the second line. He's an interesting player. Delandrea's got good upside, so you got to think you're going to see him sooner than later. Tanner Caro is interesting. He was a veteran guy that could probably help them a little bit if Cogliano moves on. So we'll see if that happens or not. But I think on D, the player that you got to be excited about is Thomas Harley. I don't know too much about Ryan Shea or Ciccone, but for me, Thomas Harley has the potential to be a top 3 defenseman for sure, and sooner than later. And then we see Ottinger as a very capable backup goalie, and it'll be interesting to see if Bishop goes down, if he gets in some more games.
Yeah, of course.
I think that a lot of this team is about great drafts. So they have one of the best evaluators in talent in Joe McDonnell. He was very effective in Detroit. You see a lot of the players that he drafted making the NHL. And I think you're seeing the same thing now over time with Dallas, where they're picking guys that have the right characteristics that they want, and they're popping through, and they may or may not be names that you would normally recognize. So Maverick Bourque, I think, has got a lot of potential. Thomas Harley, as I mentioned, I think is going to be a top 4 defenseman. Delandrea is going to be a top 9 player for sure and might be top 2. Heiskanen, we know, is one of the best in the game, and Ottinger is definitely a capable goaltender. I don't know what's going on with Jason Robertson. I have to follow up on that. And then Tufty as well. Will he pop through? Because we see how long ago Gurianov was drafted in 2015, and he's just coming through, right? He's just getting rolling. So do they repeat that with Julius Honka, who was picked the year before, or Riley Tuff? Like, do they have these other guys that they keep in the system, they keep letting them marinate, and then they get them in the NHL? It'll be interesting to see.
First of all, you bring a great point here about because when I study this, I like to check their draft picks, everything like that, right?
Yeah.
And they have a bad year. We cannot talk about 2020, 19, 18 because it's too close off. The player had to grow and, so I don't want to get there. But I would say to you, only 16 and 14 in the last 25 years in the NHL, they always draft solid, great hockey player.
I agree.
You can go all the way. Listen, I can go to 95, and I was there at 94, Marty Turco.
Right. Jeez.
Right? The year before, Jimmy Langenbrenner.
Yep. Really good player for a long time.
And then we have to go now. So since 93, right? Every year, Turco over there. The next one, Jerome Igada. So you give you an idea right there what he looked like. And then the following year, Jonathan Sim. I don't know if you remember him. And Richard Jackman. After that, Brendan Morrow. Remember him? Morrow. And then after that, you got the year after that was a little bit difficult for them. Then you got Steve Antti Mettininen. That's another one right there. After that, Jussi Okinen, the brother of Olli Okinen, right there. The same year, they got a goaltender, Mike Smith, in 2001. The following year, he just got retired a couple of days ago, 2002, Trevor Daly.
Right.
Right? The year after that, Louis Eriksson and BJ Grobin. That's number 03 and 04, Nicholas Grossman.
Like, great history of guys that are maybe they become long NHL contributors. And just because they don't draft high, I think that a lot of that predates obviously the current GM. And
so my point is that has been a great team in our NHL.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that. I think this now, they still have a RFA, if I can call it. I think the biggest is Rube Hens. They have to up this year. They still have about $4 million to get there. He's 23 years old. I don't think so. He's going to get I believe, about $2.5 million maybe.
That's what I was thinking, like 2.8.
Yeah, he's scored 19 goals, but it was really his first year with Dallas, right? So we have a potential score maybe 22.
I like that guy so much. Like, if I'm looking at a player that might be available, and I'm on another team, man, I really ask about what it would take to get him. Because he had 19 goals in 60 games, and we saw some games, man, he didn't have a lot of goals in the playoffs, but in the regular season and the prior playoff with in the prior year with Dallas, he took over games. Like, he had 5 goals in 13 games in that playoff. And that's where I think he really showed, like, whoa, this guy's really good. Like, he's an interesting player.
Exactly. I'm going to be a little bit cautious when I'm going to tell you that, but I feel like Dallas looked like almost like Colorado, minus McKinnon and the first line. But if you think about the structure of the team, look the goalie, Bishop could have been, right? 2 goalie. Look the defensemen, 6 great defensemen, 4 amazing defensemen. The last 2, they can put anybody behind them. Say, hey, buddy, just go play 10 minutes per game. We have enough in the back after that. It makes sense?
Yeah, and I think that they have some sneaky players that are going to pop up. Like, there's a Jason Robertson.
You talked about earlier, the defenseman from OHL.
Like the possibility of having that guy come in and be a top 4, like, he could very easily knock off Olixiak and make him a bottom 6.
Yep. So you can see right there where they are restructured. The forward, you know what I mean? Like you talk about Jimmy Benn, you talk about Tyler Seguin. I think the explosion or the originate Joe Pavelski was amazing. You still have Alexander Radulov over there. And then, like you just said, I think the key of that lineup right there, it's one player, well, two player, I would say to you. It's Dennis Gurianov and Roop Ends. I
And
really think that one over there are two good players. We have to pay attention to them. And also, like, is it a is it a real or is it a fiasco about Joel Kiviranta? That would be someone
he
to.
looks good. I
Um,
mean, I think the more you look at it, he actually is very offensively productive prior to coming to the NHL. And you could see in games where he's not tall, he's kind of a stout, pop into spaces type guy, and he can shoot the puck. So as long as he keeps doing that, he's going to get some goals in the NHL.
Definitely. And yeah, next year, the contract, they are not bad, but you don't have bad
In
contract.
good shape because they're going to have some crummy contracts that expire.
Next year you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But again, on the forward side, Michael, they don't have anything very big players. Right? What I mean, they don't have the top six. Any top six player they have, they are not on contract next year. So that's a good thing about Dallas. The only thing I would say to you on the defenseman, they have Eskinen, RFA, and then you're going to sign Jimmy Olixiak or UFA. But again, Olixiak is not like over $5 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Oleksiak because he looks better than we realize. He's useful for a coach. He's only making 2-1. He's had a history of injuries. If he's overcome that, then what does he get? It might be too much for them.
I think $4 would be good. 2-3 years, and then you have the rookies coming up over there. I think that would be good. I like the fact they pick up Mark Pizik. I'll be honest with you, because
he's useful. He's a good defenseman.
He go forward also, and he can pick up a couple of minutes and forward if they need a forward. He played both sides. He played a lot of minutes as a forward with the Panthers last season. So it's really a great team over there. Now the biggest question is not signed up yet. Is the signature? I expect to him the next two weeks maybe signature the head coach Rick Bonus. He's still not signed his contract for the upcoming season, but it's just a question of time, I believe, between both of them. He's just, for me, just a way, what I mean? Me and you, I can tell you that we never believe in that team from the beginning of the playoff until the final. Every day was like, what you can do, like, well, come on, Rick Barnes, come on, you cannot do that. And then we said, boom.
Not make mistakes, and it didn't matter because the players trust him.
Yep.
And that's sometimes more important.
This is a really more important about this. You can go with Barry Trust. The trust situation is all about is player. You can make this happening. How many times many players play for him before Washington and Nashville talk about Barry Trust. So we have a lot of, you can go with Roger Nelson. You can go with many coaches in NHL in the past, and right now they have a great relationship with players, and that make them a better team because of that one over there. And, whatever they would tell you, Tortorella is bad as like maybe really demanding, but I can tell you that many players have a lot of respect for John Tortorella, the way he coaches and the way the motivation he has everything like that. So very interesting. That's good. Look, great point here, Michael. You bring this morning with a Dallas Star. I think I believe it will be a top 10 in NHL. I don't see why they make it. They have still a good depth chart over there, and they still happening in the next couple of weeks. So another good job. Now tomorrow we have to go with who?
Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, we'll see happening there too. So thanks again. Great show, everybody. Don't forget again to subscribe to her YouTube channel, Hockey Nation Live Show, Facebook page, Hockey Nation Live Show, or you can find us on the Instagram and everywhere around platforms, fun social platform. And we're going to be back tomorrow, Michael, at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Have an amazing, great Thursday, everybody.